to the End Time Truth Television, the channel for the lovers of truth, for the truth of the end time. So if you are a lover of truth, give us a subscription and God bless you. Shalom. So I promised you I was going to bring you this story. And see, my aim is to educate somebody who truly wants to be educated, And for me, this is not me trying to paint men of God as being evil. If you have been around on this channel, you must have, for up to 1 year, you must have heard me at least once say that when we refer people as men of God, we should understand that what makes them unique, that title, what makes it unique is that there is a God at the end of that title. So, but when you lift that God, then anything can replace it. Men of God, you remove God, can be men of Satan, they can be men of self, they can be men of greed, they can be men of women, they can just be anything, men of crime, criminals, right? So, now before I tell you this story, I've been good with pastors a lot. It's just that I'm just being careful. I just don't want to, because somebody say, you have grace. Why not do this and that? I don't want to be called by a man pastor. So I'm doing the one that he has allowed me to do so. I think that I'm taking it one step at a time. The most important thing is that I retain my sanity as a Christian, and I retain, by the grace of God, the salvation that Jesus bought for me. All right. So, somehow, I think it still happens that sometimes you go to a pastor's house, you will see some sisters squatting in that house, living in the house of the pastor. Sometimes the pastor may be the generous type that may be sending some of the girls to school. This mostly occurs if the church or the pastor is paying for boys. Sometimes, most likely, the boys do come from the parents' houses. And that is not to say that pastors don't also live with brothers. They do. But it is mostly common that you can see about 4 young girls living the pastor's house. Maybe brother. Sometimes up to 8, depending on how rich and how rich the pastor is and how large the house is, and also how accommodating the wife of the pastor is. And of course, the girls have learned how to be loyal to the pastor's wives. So most pastors' wives don't have issues with the ladies unless she starts seeing some strange movements that she knows that there is trouble ahead. So, but in most cases, the sisters know how to arrange themselves very well. And even though there are some of them that even if anything is happening, they know how to be very, very loyal. Number one is that some of them are not happy that what is happening. Some of them don't want to do it, but because they seem not to have options. Some of them have been convinced by the scriptures, by twisting of the Bible. Please let me not make mistake. Twisting of certain verses in the Bible. Now, there was a verse of the Bible that we treated some times ago, which seemed to be the verse that pastors twist and tell persons that Apostle Paul actually permitted for a father to sleep with his daughter. Now, a father figure now, the father figures in the girls' lives. And we have treated that. And we see that that is not true. In that video, I told you that a sister also particularly quoted that scripture for me, in trying that our pastor in those days, I'm no longer in that ministry, please. Our pastor in those days quoted it for her. And so she was like, if the pastor should quote it for her, and she read it to me, that it's okay now. So if the pastor could do that, um, by proving it from the scriptures that me, I was not a pastor, I was just a youth leader then. So what was it? All right. Now, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 36. But if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely toward his virgin, if she pass the flower of her age, and need so require, let him do what he will. He sinneth not, let them marry. Verse 37. Nevertheless, he that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but hath power over his own will, and hath so decreed in his heart that he will keep his virgin, doeth well. So then, he that giveth her in marriage doeth well, but he that giveth her not in marriage doeth better. Now you see these 3 verses. You read it, it seems like the apostle is saying, if you think that you cannot hold yourself, let's go ahead and do whatever you want to do with your virgin daughter, or with your spouse, your betrothed spouse, your person, your fiancé. Let's go ahead and sleep, nothing. But that is not what the Bible is saying. The Bible says, let them marry. So even if it is talking about the father, let's use amplified. But if any man thinks that he is not acting properly toward and in regard to his virgin, that he is preparing disgrace for her or incurring reproach in case she is passing the bloom of her youth, and if there is need for it, let him do what to him seems right. He does not sin. Let them marry. Right? So this is not a permission. I've done a video on that. A verse that permits, where Paul permits Christians to sleep around. You can search for it. It's here. I'm not going to it again. I did an extensive explanation on it because Apostle Seman was involved in it. All right. So this she quoted for me. Now, what I'm saying is that there are some ladies that have biblical, so to speak, backing as to why they would sleep with their spiritual father, because the Bible, according to them, what they were told, has shown it. But there are some of them that are very ambitious. They want to rub it on the face of the madam of the house. I'm also eating what you're eating. So that is the only time the madam of the house will have issues. Please, I'm telling you a story. I have 2 stories here that I will tell you. So in one of those days, there were stories being told about our emoji then, and somehow from the outside you would be like, but it's not possible. But if you're sincere to details, you want to put your eyes to the ground and evaluate things, you will find out that it's quite likely and it is possible. Now, also from the body language of the person that was involved, you want to think that it was possible. But at this point in time, the wife of the man then was already making noise, and it is usually difficult for a woman that has professed so much love and respect for her husband, and also who is running the same ministry with the man. Now, when the woman is doing it because the man is maltreating her, you will understand. But when she is doing it because she doesn't want this man to be disgraced eventually by impregnating this girl, please, I'm crying out now, let people hear my voice, you will know. So that the latter was the case. So the thing went on and on and on and on. And then, beside that girl, there was also another decent sister. I can vouch for her. I could vouch for her in those days, and even still now. She's married now. Both of them are married anyway. So one of the days we were talking, I've forgotten what we were talking about. There was something she said that took me aback. She said to me that pastors are men after all. Because I was trying to kind of paint our man of God in the light that he is a perfect man. He was a perfect man. So she told me that pastors are men after all. I beg, let's talk about another thing. That was the summary of what she was. So I didn't go ahead to ask her any other thing, because before she said that thing, I know that some kind of conversation must have happened. And so she was telling me that she wanted to kind of be careful and withdraw herself so she doesn't enter into trouble and become one of the persons in the news. So I understood that. Now, so what I'm telling you now will take us to the base story of the sister I told you about. I can't specifically tell you her age now, but I think either she is in her late 50s or at least mid 50s, between 50 and 60. I cannot tell now. So she's not a kid, she's a grandmother now. In her early age, in her early days as spirit-filled daughter of Zion, she had this story she told me when that her father in the Lord passed on. I think that was 2 years ago. Not making mistake, that 2 years ago, last year. Oops, about 2 years ago. So we were speaking of her and I saw that her tone was down, and then eventually she told me she lost her father in the Lord. And that was also when some certain stories were coming out about a certain pastor in Nigeria. So our conversation dovetailed into this discussion I'm about to tell you now, so that you will understand that men are men. It is only God that makes difference, that makes the difference. All right. See, everybody has weakness. Everybody has weakness, but Christ is the eraser, the erasing hand, and the power that erases our weaknesses. That's why the Bible talks about the sin that easily besets us. Now, this is not to say that these people should be crucified. So she told me that in those days, just like I was saying, that there were some young sisters staying with the pastor. Herself was amongst them, and she was loving the Lord and loving her man of God. She also loved the brethren, and she served the Lord with all her heart, and everybody saw it purely, that she was purely out for Christ. Now, so they were living in the house and serving God, going to school, attending church services, minding their businesses as Christians and daughters of Christ and daughters of their man of God in the house. And this man of God also was well married. But unknown to her that there was something happening under her nose, she never knew that something was happening. The rest of the girls, I can't remember how many of them now, but if they were 10, she was the only person that didn't know what was happening, because this thing that was happening was not just happening with the pastor. It also happened between those that the pastor kept as friends and colleagues. All right. So this thing began to happen, and she was innocent. She was naive. I don't know if that should be the word. As at that time, she was not just coming to terms with the possibility of this excellent servant of God, who happens to be her spiritual father, to have had carnal knowledge of her friends and sisters in the Lord cohabiting in the house with her. Said if they were 10, she was the only person. If they were 5, she was the only person. So that means if they were up to 10, 9. If they were up to 5, 4. But they were not 2. They were not 3. I don't think they were 4. I cannot remember how many now. I can't tell you how many. So somehow, Jesus said that there is nothing hidden under the sun that cannot be revealed. So somehow the thing started leaking, and it was developing like when you pour kerosene, on a certain spot, give it some time, it would spread beyond that particular point that it was dropped. So it was spreading gradually. But she was defending this man. She could even give her eye to defend the man, that she was so sure that the man she stayed in his house, would not be the person that people were murmuring and rumoring things out infidelity of. Even one of the men who happened to know, and who probably, I think, was also in the act, told her, "Oh, you are just floating." Now the thing is that somehow, when they want to pick the choices of people, they know persons to touch and persons not to touch. She told me that her own father was that kind of a father that could kill anybody that messed up with his child, most especially daughter. And she had brothers too. And the father was not just, one of the men, he was also fairly rich. So the guys knew that that sister was touch not. In fact, probably she was the perfect definition of touch not my anointed. So she was the anointed in the house that must not be touched and must not be harmed. Because if anything happens to her, but her father hearing that somebody told her, meet me in such and such place for such and such thing. Now, there even happened to be some occasions that the man had used the tactics that he used for other girls on her, but she would innocently be in the location, but the man would somehow tactically would dismiss her because he hadn't got the liver, hadn't got the courage to do that. So the man knows when and where to invite the particular choice for the day. They will do their thing, clean up, and of course, he was being generous towards them. So at the end of the day, eventually, some of the girls owned up, told her the modus operandi, how the thing, how, when and how it used to happen. And she was able to put 1 plus 1 together and came to the conclusion, oh, so this is true. Now, you know why I'm telling you this too? Last time I told you a story of how we, in quote, killed a sister that wanted to expose our man of God. And in that video, I emphatically told you that me will not stick out my neck in the defense of any man of God, no matter how much I know the person. I can only tell you, this is what I know about this person. But to pick up a fight on behalf of a man of God, on behalf of a pastor, on behalf of a general overseer, I won't do it. And I won't encourage anybody to pick up a fight because of me. I won't encourage anybody to fight and offend God because of me. If you know me, you can just state what you know about me. And if you know me, you heard something about me, you can call me with sincerity and ask me, this is what I have heard. It's true? Now, because sometimes we don't even have the temerity to go to the offices of our men of God to ask them, sir, this thing I'm hearing about you, is it true? We don't have that courage. Many of us don't. And because many of us don't even know them, we don't even know where they live. We only see them on television. Even those of us that worship in their churches, we have not had access to knock at their office door, not to talk of sitting down one-on-one with them before, once in a time. So, but because of what we perceive about them, we want to give up our sanity and reputation. Say, no, you are stupid. You are Satan. You are an agent of the devil. How can you come so low? How much did they pay you to tarnish the image of the man of God? I remember I brought a video here of pastor, White Garment Church pastor, Cherubim and Seraphim pastor in the UK, who molested some group of girls and their boy for over 20 years. He started molesting them when the children were kids, to the point where they could conceive, and he would help them to abort, because he is a pharmacist. And when the bubble busted, he quickly, hurriedly attempted to leave UK, and unfortunately for him, he was apprehended. And you know what would have happened if he had succeeded to enter Nigeria? He would grant press conference how that the devil possessed people who are agents of the devil, working against the progress of the church, working against the body of Christ. But God had vindicated him. Here he is in Nigeria. And his followers would demonize those kids, call them unprintable names. That is why sometimes it is quite criminal to want to jump into conclusion, either on behalf of the pastor or on behalf of the victims alleged. Got to be patient and watch as it unfolds. somehow the truth will always be unraveled. So, be wise. God bless you. I'll see you in the next video. Then, let me know what you think about this. Hello.